Welcome to the recap of the Japanese film Plan 75, where a dystopian vision is portrayed of what to do when there are too many of us in a society that is slowly perishing in a very proud nation. Older people have accepted that their lives should end prematurely, simply to avoid the extra expense incurred by staying alive when they no longer produce anything beneficial for society. Thus, anyone over 75 years old is encouraged by the government to take their own life to avoid becoming a drain on resources for the younger population. In this context, we meet our main character, Michi, who has just received notice that, due to the new law, her pension has been suspended as well as all the benefits she used to receive. Other citizens, like the young Hiromu, oppose this new law. To him, the elderly are not something to be simply disposed of. He still sees them as people with valuable stories and experiences, worthy of respect. However, his job suggests otherwise. He's the one who schedules the deaths of these individuals. During his long hours at the company, he meets many elderly people who have reached 75 and feels a connection with them. Yet he tries hard to give their deaths some dignity. One morning, he meets Michi in his office, who has come to discuss the details of her scheduled departure. He explains that once she has died, the government will give 1 million yen to the person of her choosing. This is the government's way of thanking her for her years of service. Many leave it to their children as an inheritance. But in Michi's case, she has no one in this world. She never married or had children. For over 50 years, it had just been her friends, and her work as a maid. Like Hiromu, there are other young people who are not in favor of the law, but their job requires them to work directly with people who will soon leave this world. In this case, we meet Maria, who works in a nursing home and very much enjoys her time there, although she does it all to support her young daughter, whom she has to leave with her irresponsible father while she works double shifts to earn some extra money. At the Plan 75 office, Michi listens to a woman on the screen who accepts death like a friend, all to protect the future for the younger ones, those who have grown up in easy times and led society into complete decline, a decline that the elderly must now help overcome. As expected, one of the old men gets tired of the lies coming from the TV and gets up to forcibly turn it off. Later, when her registration in the system becomes official, Michi and her friends are forced to sign their resignation letters at work. Basically, their grace period has now begun. The first thing she does with the little money left in her account is to buy a karaoke machine to have fun with her friends for hours, singing the old songs they enjoyed in their youth. Her friend Yoko shows her what she will do with her money. She plans to send her children to a 5-star hotel to enjoy themselves to the fullest. She has discovered that funeral expenses are covered by the company, so her children should enjoy the money. Although the program is not entirely mandatory, the advertising and campaigns are quite exhaustive and intense. There are few cases like that of Inako, who is close to 90 years old, much older compared to Michi's 78. On the other hand, during a special dinner at the nursing home, Maria opens her heart to her co-workers and tells them about the terrible situation she is going through. Her daughter will undergo a very costly heart surgery, so she has no choice but to ask them for help to save her life. When dinner is over, her boss calls her over to tell her that if she needs money, she can find her a good job that will pay more. News that Maria welcomes with excitement and longing. Returning to Michi's story, her former co-workers have brought a small farewell gift for her and her friends as a thank you for having trained everyone for the job. After giving 50 years of her life to hotel service, Michi returns home, where there is no one to talk to, and she spends her days in complete silence, following a nearly mechanical routine. The next day, she goes to the employment office where they inform her that, due to her advanced age, her chances of finding a job are very low, almost non-existent. Michi is running out of options. She doesn't know anyone, and if she can't find a job soon, she will be evicted from her home. She still does not feel ready to leave this world. The following morning, Maria begins her new job, which turns out to be in the Plan 75 cremation center, where people without families are processed and cremated all together to reduce costs. As days go by, despair and boredom take hold of Michi, who goes out to the street just to walk around and watch people work. That afternoon, she decides to seek companionship and visits Ineko, but ends up finding her lifeless body on the kitchen table. Meanwhile, Hiromu has just found out that his uncle has turned 75 and has decided to leave him his million yen, news that confuses him, since he hadn't seen the man in 20 years. That night, after walking a lot and seeing her friend's corpse, Michi is sitting in a plaza when Hiromu approaches and offers her a plate of food. It turns out that the young man used all his savings to feed as many elderly people as he could in one last act of kindness to the world, in his uncle's name. Back to Maria, her job is to remove the clothing and garments from the elderly who will be prepared for cremation. Her co-worker shows her the benefits of that department, since they can keep the elderly people's clothes and jewelry. As Michi's date approaches, the agency assigns her a person she can talk to on the phone for 15 minutes every day, a way for her to vent and express what she feels before her scheduled date arrives. However, Michi's life story ends up moving the girl on the other end of the phone. Disobeying the rules, she meets Michi face to face. Through this, we learn that the young woman's name is Cheryl, and like Hiromu, she enjoys spending time with the elderly and feels great respect for them. As days continue to pass, Cheryl bends some rules and spends the entire day talking to Michi, who is really interesting, but has had a hard life that includes an abusive husband and the loss of her baby in the womb. However, when it's time for their last call, the young woman cannot help but shed a tear as she explains to her friend how the assisted death process will work. With a broken voice, Michi tells her not to worry and thanks her for having been her friend in times of despair. It may not seem like it now, but those 15 minutes a day gave her back something she felt she had lost long ago: the feeling that someone cares about you. That night, Cheryl overhears her bosses talking about older people who request to cancel their contract with the company at the last moment, an option she wasn't aware of. Meanwhile, Michi tries hard to look decent before the Plan 75 workers arrive at her house the next morning. Back to Hiromu, his uncle's decision has made him realize what a bad nephew he has been, so he looks for him to spend some time together before his moment arrives. Unfortunately, they end up having a few too many drinks, which his uncle's stomach can no longer handle, and he ends up vomiting in the middle of the road. Right after that, the man asks to be taken to the Plan 75 Assistance Center, and when Hiromu offers to go in with him, he refuses, stating that the effort made to get to know him is more than enough. Simultaneously, the agency's operators take Michi to the assistance center, where they give her some medicine to calm her nerves before proceeding with her assisted death. On the way home, Hiromu has just realized that he literally took his uncle to a place where they will take his life, a revelation that leaves him stunned and beside himself. In desperation, he turns the car around and drives as fast as possible to try to save him. Hopefully he can make it in time. At the same time, we see Michi's heart rate start to drop on the monitor of the breathing machine they have placed on her, while in the bed next to hers, we see Hiromu's uncle, whose death comes even faster. By the time the young man finally arrives at the center, he realizes that it's too late. His uncle is no longer part of this world. A few minutes later, Maria appears to collect his uncle's belongings, and the young man convinces her to help take the body away. He doesn't want his uncle to be cremated along with others. He wants him to have a proper burial. Back at work, Maria comes across Michi's belongings. While sorting her clothes, she finds 1 million yen in cash, enough money to cover her daughter's surgery and give her a good life. This is the miracle she had so fervently prayed for. The film ends with Maria rushing out of the assistance center toward her home, and with Michi, who regretted her decision at the very last second and escaped from the center. She is sure she will die soon, but will do so on her own terms. For now, she will give her all to continue living life to the fullest.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.